Hello, so this is part 2 of the creature design thing. So in the last one we basically just made this effects chain in SoundMiner, or you could have done it in Reaper, done your own thing with it, entirely up to you. But I'll just give you a little quick before and after. So we'll get like... So we've got that stuff, bypass, and you get this. And then we can pitch it down a little bit. So yeah, all that good stuff. So I took a bunch of this over here. So yeah, that's kind of cool. So the next step here is just to start making some. We've got, the way I look at it, we've got like, this is animal source, but we need creature source. So what I normally do, and this is like, it can be quite a long process, but I think it's important just to make something, move on to the next one. Don't like fuss over it for too long. We need to just keep making assets, basically. Especially if you're working on a game or something that needs lots of assets. So, how do we start? Let me just make sure there's no effects on here. We do have track spacer here. Can delete that, we're not going to need it. So let's just drag in some assets and kind of see what happens. Right, not that one. So I want this to be a kind of quick process. I don't want to take ages. I'm looking for something like an intro, then a main sound, then a main sound high pitch layer, and then like an outro. So I'll take some of these, and these aren't all going to be good, but you need to just go with it. Another thing you want to do when you're kind of designing these little sounds is keep them kind of short. Like, don't just use the whole file just because it's convenient. You're going to want to chop it up into little segments. This is the bit that gets kind of tedious. So let's move this here, turn this down, delete this, move this over like so. Pitch it down a little bit. Now I'm going to just open up Native Instruments driver. I might use this, I might not. We'll see what happens. I think it gives quite a nice sound. Yep, so one of these. Maybe this can go here. This can do something like this. Put this here. I'm not actually designing the sound at the minute. I'm just kind of getting a rough kind of guide together of where I want things to go and what kind of sounds I want to actually use. The hardest part is doing the first one. Once you've done the first one, it gets a little bit easier. Because you kind of know what you're doing and you know what sounds are kind of working. So we need to pay attention to the stereo width because you don't always want it to be extremely stereo. Take this one. And then something a little bit tonal. Yep, so that's the first one. I'm not going to worry about it too much. I don't think it's that good. But we're going to keep doing this process, then we move on to the next step. Which we'll get to after this. So let's have this bit coming in here. And then something like this. And then we'll put this here. And then we'll use like a seal or something. And then I'm going to hit Z on the keyboard, which brings up this peak follower thing. I'm going to generate this one. I'm going to line this up, and well, that's not very. I'm going to bring this down to here. Cool. Move on to the next one. Put this here. They kind of clash. Even though we're pitching stuff up and down, normally if you're working on the gun straight, you'll drag it and you'll just pitch it down. We want to focus on the actual flow of the sound, because you don't want it to come like up and then jump way up or way down in pitch, or it'll sound quite unnatural. So that kind of goes a bit weird. So we'll drag this in. If we took the start of this and layered this up here, yep, that works. Next one, maybe I'll just make like 2 more, and then I'll just stop the recording and I'll make like another 20 or something. So we want these very like tonal parts of the sound. You don't want to do massive fade-ins generally and things like that. We want it to be quite choppy. So we'll drag this in here. Oops. And then put this underneath it. They're too disconnected, this won't work. We can just use this part. Delete it. Let's hear this without driver. We could try some other stuff. I'm just going to throw on... I'm just going to use like OTT, but I'm going to use the kilohertz one. And that adds a bunch of noise. What is going on here? Okay. So then I'm just going to use isotope, the voice denoise. What's this? I don't think we're going to be able to get rid of all of that noise. Yeah, works for me. It does need something a little bit like screechy. With this screechy stuff, you can bring it down quite a lot in volume because your ears are naturally quite sensitive to that. So it doesn't need to be too loud. And then we will put this here. One other thing we can do here, I'm going to make a new track. I'm going to send this to here. I'm going to just open up like a pitch shifter thing. Let's use the kilohertz one. I'll bring it down by like 8 semitones. I'm going to bring this down as well. Bring this up. So this can add, well, I don't know if this will work, but so it can add like a kind of bass layer to it. You can have it kind of quiet. Oh, so delete that one because it didn't work. If it takes ages to come together, I think just delete it and try something else. But yeah, you get the idea. Just keep going with all of these till you've got. The more you can make, the easier it is for like the next step. So I'm just going to stop the video there. I'll design a bunch of these, then I'll come back and I'll show you the next step. Hello. Right, I've made a few more variations here. They're still not sounding super amazing at the minute, but that's fine. I'm kind of working on that. I did add a few things here. Low ender, I added that. It's not very obvious. Maybe I could bring this up actually. So maybe move this over here a little bit so we get this. It was fine where it was. I added this compressor thing here. I pretty much use this on everything. And let's mix in some of the dry signal. I think that's pretty loud actually. Using Soothe. Let's hear what Soothe is doing. Not very much. And then we've got multiband sweetener. This is kind of cool. I don't know, I just quite like it. Then I've got Unveil, which is just taking away some of the noise. Then we've got Elevate. But what I'm going to try, if the CPU can kind of handle it, is this thing here. This is a plugin. It's like a transient shaper kind of thing. To be honest, I've only used this about 2 or 3 times. Let's just try some of the presets, I guess, and just see how they sound. I don't think I'm noticing a massive difference here. That's kind of cool though. I'm going to leave that. I'm then going to add transient shaping, so probably just transmod. Oh, damn. Kind of sounds okay. So yeah, I'm just going to make a few more variations here. We've got about 26. There's also these things here that I quite like. Although maybe it won't work with the other stuff. What's this? It's all a bit noisy. That one kind of works. So I'm just going to go through and just spend a few minutes just tidying this up and making sure, well, nothing's poking out too much and nothing sounds too awful. So I'll probably just speed this bit up because it won't be very exciting. Just a lot of this sort of thing. Okay, so this is all the takes here. There's maybe like 30 or something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bounce this down via the pre-master here. So I've got a shortcut. It is render tracks to stereo stem track obeying time selection, and it's on the keyboard command is 1. So I basically just highlight all this, then I'm going to select the pre-master, then hit 1. And that'll export all this. Okay, so that's it bounced down now, so we've got the whole thing here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave it like this. I'm just going to call it JD Creature Source YouTube. V1. I'm going to export this to my library, then I'm going to put it into Radium. Okay, so here's SoundMiner. So here's the thing here. So I've exported it, it's in my library. Oh Jesus. I'm going to go to here, I'm going to hit Control R. Depending on how you've set this up, it'll select all these little things. You can see it puts like a region around it. Then I'm going to open up Radium, then I'm going to just say load here. There's quite a lot, so I'm going to try loading it on 2 different slots. So now, when I hit a key on the keyboard, well, I'm going to just press this thing because I've not got a keyboard, but it'll just play one of these things, and probably, well, hopefully not the same one for each slot. So I'm just going to bring up the release a little bit, and we'll try this. I might add some effects here. I like unveil, so I think that normally works pretty well. I used that on the source, then I used it on the little creation thing we just done, and now I'm going to try using it here. Yeah, let's see how this sounds. So this is kind of just trial and error, basically. You can mess about with these things, so like pitch these down, pitch this up, and then maybe I don't want the release. Maybe I want a little bit, maybe just a touch. I'm going to just add a gate on here. Anything will probably be fine. So yeah, you don't actually need to do this in SoundMiner. I just like the Radium kind of workflow and just hitting the key and just picking a random spot in the sound. You could absolutely just put this back into, like, you could just do this and duplicate this a few times. And then just select this, and then these two, then this one here, then bring this down here, then this. You know, you could do like this. It just takes a little while, but it's totally doable. So yeah, let's just, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit record, and I'm just going to play the keys and just record like a minute or two and see what we get. Cool, so we've got a bunch of interesting stuff there. While we've got Radium open, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this one here. Oh, I delete them both. Okay, never mind. I'm going to bring some random I'm going to bring the source thing into here again. And then I'm just going to add a few other random bits and pieces. Cool, so this is the creature source thing that we recorded, this thing here, which I deleted, this thing, plus a bunch of these things that we processed already. So I just dragged them back and layered them up with the source. And we've got a peg, we've got another peg, and we've got a pug. And that sounds like this. So let's maybe get rid of the unveil, and what we'll use instead is driver. Very loud. Why is it so loud? Let's keep the unveil, then we'll try it again. Okay, I think these are just quite loud. Cool, so I'm going to record all this stuff again, and we'll see what we get. Cool, and let's replace some of these again. This one can go here. So we'll always keep the default one. The one we made in Reaper. Cool, so let's record this again and see what we get. I might just, as I record this, I'm just going to kind of mess with maybe the driver, maybe the unveil, definitely the levels here, and maybe some of the semitones, just for a bit of variety. Cool, so here we go. Okay, and I'll do one more here. So this is the default thing, a whale, a stark, which we processed a bit, so it sounds quite bassy, and then a seal. You don't need to do 4 things, you could just do 1 or 2, because we're going to be doing this process a few times. So the more you layer up now, it'll sound kind of cool, but by the end, it kind of gets a bit messy. So yeah, here we go. Oh. Cool. So I think we're kind of done with this. We could just kind of keep going for as long as we want. We could get rid of this YouTube thing here, the source here at the top, and then just use more of this process stuff. That's totally fine as well. Yeah, just what you want to do. But yeah, so in the next part, I'm just going to make a bunch of this kind of stuff, but using the layers that we've already made in Radium, or the ones that you've layered up in Reaper. So yeah, cool. See ya.